Okay, guys. So today I want to talk about something which is a little bit ironic because we have a travel podcast where we talk about our travel adventures. And lately I've been
Okay.
feeling like I don't want to travel at all. Like I'm exhausted from travel. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to stay in my home. Like going to the airport seems daunting and just a hot mess. So, like travel burnout, the idea of traveling too much, is that even like is that a
Is that a
thing?
thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, poor you. You have too much vacation travel. Like, oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, I'm having a hard time. When you said that, I was kind of like, is there such a thing?
Yeah.
But obviously it is. We're going to validate that today with you to say, I can't say I'm in solidarity, but what I can
Hmm.
say is that I see you. I notice what's going on, and we're here to help you talk about it. In all honesty, typically when you're in a couple, I think just from her and I speaking, we're the planners. So everything falls on the planner. And just like a caregiver would be for someone who, is caring for someone who's terminally ill or whatever the circumstances are, it is draining. I mean, it does take time.
Yeah.
Let's face it, does anyone really check on the planner to make sure the planner's having a good time?
As a person who's not married, who don't plan trips and really do things from a spontaneous aspect. So I'm a procrastinator when it comes to traveling. I literally am spontaneous. Like, how does that work? Because I have to admit, sometimes I do feel a little angst or not burned out. I don't know if that's the right word, but I do feel like
Uh,
do I have to, and is it the
well,
same
could that be a reason
feeling?
for your procrastination?
It's definitely like a first world problem. But
Definitely,
yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like
definitely.
traveling, whether it's for hobbies, like I had to travel
Yeah.
for dance, and then also we were going to a Miami football
Hmm.
game, and then I went to pick up my dog. So all of these things are like things that I am choosing to do, but for
Right.
Right.
whatever reason, it's like I'm not planning them. They happened like 3 weekends in a row, and I was
Yeah.
exhausted. So it's like, how can I better plan? How can I avoid having stuff back to back to back? Things that I want to do. I just, and it just happens. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not home for 4 weeks in a row. I'm exhausted now because staying
But
in a
it sounds like a
hotel or,
spontaneous. It sounds like you're not planning. It sounds like you're being like me, spontaneous.
oh no, they were planned, but I think what happened was like there would be something on the calendar and then I would put something, it was all like,
Yeah.
I don't
It's
even
like just back
know.
to back to back.
And then I don't
And we're trying to
actually
fit it in.
know how to, because I do like to travel, and that's why I put
Hmm.
things on the calendar, and then all of a sudden
Hmm.
I'm like gone 4 weekends in a row, and I'm like, this is not fun anymore.
I have the medicine for it, and I think this might sound easy, and I will be curious to hear what others may think. And it's literally almost going back to how we do work. And one of the things is, you have your calendar, and if you already had stuff that's already on there, it sounds like what we're doing, because I do it too as well, is that we'll plan stuff out and we'll put it on the calendar, but in between the white space we still add
Yeah,
stuff on there.
adding stuff in,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
for
because I
sure.
Yeah.
don't think you knew you were
There
going to have
can
a
be
dog.
no white space. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right though.
you
It's like,
didn't
oh,
know.
this weekend is free, so yes, we can go to the Miami game. Oh,
Exactly.
this is the perfect weekend to pick up the dog. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Right.
you're
So
right.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know how to prevent that. Like, it's something I really would like to focus on
just don't
in
do it.
2025. Just don't do it.
Well, the thing is, not just that, because I mean, I think you should
I'm
definitely
joking.
do it. Maybe just where I mean, just like you would in a business, if you're doing a business plan or anything like that, you plan out your calendar, say 6 weeks at a time, and
Mm.
then now maybe what you're looking at is you're actually scheduling, hey, I'm not going to put anything here. This is my weekend, or 2 weeks in a row, this is my weekend off. We're not doing anything. We're not going anywhere. during this time, unless it's
Yeah.
absolutely necessary. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and I'm not even trying to balance it with any work travel because I don't currently work. So I don't even know
yeah, well,
how did you do that, Paul? Like, how did that even work?
Well, I changed it. Like, I don't know if I should say this, but what some people like to do is when they travel for work, they try to travel where they're getting their work done. So, for example, maybe a Wednesday and you get your work done. And then you have, after that Friday, to give yourself time to recuperate. And that recuperate is your hobby type of travel. So
in the travel location.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you piggyback off of each other so you don't feel burned out. But then it doesn't work, to your point, Benef, because you say you're away from home for so long and all this other stuff.
Yeah. I'm really not digging like being away from home, which is interesting. Yeah.
Well, how did you do it when we were in the military? I mean,
I guess
you
it's
know
just
what I mean?
a different
So
mindset now.
I mean,
I don't know.
you had to do it too, and not to mention you were also younger, right? So you probably had still that, you know, that explorer in you, I guess, in that sense. And you talk about the causes of travel burnout. I mean, let's just kind of put some structure into it, just because, you know, me, I'm the planner also, but just what are some causes of travel burnout? Okay, what are some symptoms of that? Okay, overpacking, right? That's probably, you know, and when I mean overpacking, I'm not talking about your suitcase. I'm talking about, although that could cause burnout. But the itinerary is too much. You know, you're trying to fit in too much, a lot, and we tend to do that especially when we're traveling internationally. We want to, you know, pack it all in, if you will. You know, Paul, and you and I have a mutual friend from high school. We actually had this discussion, believe it or not, and she says that if we're going to go and we're going to travel, then we're doing something every day. We're doing it every day because we got stuff to walk to go, and it's an exhausting way to go, but they definitely cover ground. Let's just say that way.
Well, I think the assumption is that you may never go back, so I gotta get it all in because you know
exactly. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But see, here's my remedy to that. Here's part of my remedy to that, and I'm only talking about what I do. To make, and you're not going to be able to see everything that you wanted to see, right? But you're able to do something every day. But within the everyday, like, I hate to keep going back to it, but I am a 100% or 90% complete spontaneous type of guy. Even when I'm traveling, I barely have an itinerary. The day of or the day before, I will look at the city I'm going to, and then I will either makeshift and see what they say. And a good rule of thumb for me is I would literally go on YouTube and be like I just traveled to Valencia, which I literally made that plan like 3 days before going. And what I did was I looked on YouTube and I typed in Valencia. And then I saw what people were saying, the top 3 things to see when you're there. Yeah. I make sure to get that in. And every day that I was there, because I was there for 3 days, 3 nights, 4 days. And I could tell you every day I did not overpack, like you said, Trecia, my suitcase or my to-do things. Yeah, my to-do things during the day, because.
But what happens if what you want to do requires like a reservation or a ticket months out? Do you just not do that?
I've not had that issue, and I you know, in any travels that I've had, but you're right, there are times that you have to do that. And especially when you have to do reservations, you just have to do that prior to, right? But for me, I usually make sure to get the hotel concierge involved. But most people don't stay at concierge.
I don't actually use the hotel concierge. I do. I probably should for those types of things.
Because it helps to relieve the stress. Because
I agree.
So the concierge or a travel planner would certainly alleviate the second thing on the list, which is the constant planning and decision making that a person has to do, especially if you're traveling with other people, with family, with young children, or
what do you mean travel planner? You mean pay somebody?
A travel advisor. If you've got a large group, and people, a multi-generational group, and I don't want to be the one that has to figure out what everybody's doing that day, like grandma down to like littles. So you have someone else, you give them the guidelines, they plan it.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Again,
and of course,
that's
that's an added cost, of course, to that, especially if you're using a planner. It may you may incur something else if you're not already using travel. Why I tend to plan ahead.
Yeah. And I know men and women, we pack differently. I literally never check bags on a plane. I'll give you an example. Whenever I go back to the States, I usually go back to the States for at least 6 to 7 days. So a week.
Okay. And all of that's fitting in a carry-on?
So yes, because two things. What I normally do is I pack just like for 1 day of clothes. Wait, just hold for a second. 1 day of clothes that I'll wear for the day that I'm traveling.
So you'll wear that all day, no matter what the activity you'll plan accordingly.
That is the intent, is that that's going to be the clothes that I'm going to wear the day of. However, I have enough room in my bag if I need to buy something, because I'm always buying something wherever I'm going. So I may buy a t-shirt, I may buy a shirt. So you can wear... Are
you ever doing laundry or no?
Well, I do sometimes, and then sometimes I don't. It depends on how long, like you said, the stay is.
Yeah.
But if you have a pair of, like, jeans obviously work well where you can wear it more than one time, and you flip-flop and switch shirts, jackets, whatever you wanted to do to make it a new pair of outfit. And then I would highly recommend folks to think about vacuum bags. They work wonders. I use vacuum bags.
Yeah, the storage. I use storage cubes.
Yeah. So it works wonders. And I'm telling you, I was never a fan of it, but now I'm a huge fan of it. And then when you pack light, because you're going to buy stuff, that's why I do
Not necessarily, but I don't necessarily buy things.
I would say 80% of the time you're going to buy it either shirt or pants.
I buy something. Yeah. I typically will buy something to commemorate, but I'm a huge magnet person anyway.
Yeah. And the next thing, the cultural overload. I swear, last Christmas or last December, we went to Mexico for an event, Violette and and I think that trip started the cause of the travel burnout, because we had the event planned, but I didn't really have anything else planned because I didn't want to overdo it. But then the event, it was supposed to be 2 days and we had 1 day, but then the second day got canceled. So everybody was coming on that 1 day to see this guy that we went to see. And it was overwhelming. There was too many people. It was all in Spanish. I didn't understand Spanish. I didn't understand the instructions that were being yelled at me in Spanish, because I should speak Spanish, obviously. Look at me. And it was just I was like, too much, and I'm responsible for my child, right? So it's all on me to get us where we need to go, to navigate and walk the streets. And Mexico City was fine, but there's a lot of people, it was just a lot. Right. And I was like, I don't want to travel. I was like, no more international travel for a while, because it was very stressful for me to have to figure shit out.
Definitely could
language I don't understand.
Yeah, it could definitely be overwhelming in that sense, especially if there's crowds.
If out of all the stuff that we're talking about right now, the number one thing is, and for me, for 100%, is the cultural overload. Because I have to admit, I live in France, and just in France alone, traveling in France, and you have to hear that. And then when I was traveling to another country in Europe, it does get annoying for me that now I got to turn off French, or I got to figure out the Spanish that's being taught. So that for me is
there's an app for that.
That is true, but it's still a burnout, meaning you have to get to your phone and be like, okay, hold on, wait, can you do that? And then you have to wait for the person to wait.
Not really knowing how things go.
I think one of the last things that would definitely be a cause of travel burnout is, oh my goodness, trying to capture. How do I take all of what I'm seeing and doing, and putting that in a capsule and bringing that back? And one of the big things is the whole social media thing. That is huge pressure of,
if you allow it to, I mean, if you feel like
I'm gonna say if you allow it to be,
because
yeah, you don't need to post
exactly.
exactly.
Feel like I need to be posting.
And I know that, but I mean, that is a real issue. I mean, Spain, even France. I mean, some of these places, they are closing places because people are doing some weird stuff. I mean, even across the United States here. I mean, just to get the right Instagram shot, there are these people that are just they'll stop traffic.
You have content.
They'll walk in traffic.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've done that before.
Yeah, I mean, so they're standing on monuments. They're doing all these different things and defacing property because they're trying to get the right Instagram shot.
Well, I've never done that.
But it's immense pressure to want to take pictures to bring all of that back. So I think there's a real demand.
It can be.
Yeah, and it's a time sucker because instead of you being in the moment, you're so
documenting,
worried about taking the photo. Yeah. I mean, I understand that you want to do that, but having a conversation with people, I think that's what people forget also. Yes, it's nice to have the picture, but come back home and actually have a conversation with folks about your trip. That'll get them to go too.
But to add on to that too as well, I think where that social media burnout part of taking the photos and stuff is because, and this is going to touch on the safety issue part of it, is because people tend to want to take that picture or that video and they want to post it right away. That's
absolutely
the burnout.
Not necessary. Right?
I think that's where the burnout comes in too as well for some people, because they feel like they have that anxiety. Your brain is starting to overdrive.
You gotta post right away.
Oh my God, I gotta take this and I gotta clean it up and I gotta do this, because people cleaning up their photos and they gotta. And now I gotta post.
I like to take my photos kind of in the moment and whatever I'm doing, but then I don't typically when I'm on vacation. First of all, for the safety reason, I don't post when I'm away, because that means I'm away. My house is empty, right? So no one needs to know that I'm not home. That's the worst thing you could do. So what you should do is go ahead and take your photos, but then when you get back, post your photos.
Or Or if you take your photos, don't put on there, today we did blah, 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 blah. It's just kind of
on the plane right now.
I see that all the time, and I'm always
house is empty. Please.
It's like, why are you telling us this?
But 9 times, I would say 8 times out of 10, the house is empty. So you're telling everyone that you're not home.
Yeah.
So it's not a good idea.
Just arrived.
Yeah.
I just arrived. Well, thank you for telling me you just arrived.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't ever check into any place. I think, do people still do that? Like
people still check in.
They still do it.
I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. And I'm sorry, some people are still doing that. Don't do it. If you're gonna put a location, you can put a location. And this is important. Like, if you're going to post and you want to post real time, you still can do that. But don't tell us that you're doing it now.
Yeah, right.
You could just say, here's the Mona Lisa.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so to recap a little bit, because we talked about like the things that cause travel burnout. Well, how can we avoid it? And I think we sort of covered all those things. Like the itinerary does not need to be jam-packed. Like you can actually plan rest days, plan days to be by the pool, plan days to just go out and walk.
Slow down. Chill.
Comfort as well. What did it say?
I've only said it, I don't know how many times in my answers, but planning helps. It really does help. And even if you want to be spontaneous, there's nothing wrong with at least maybe not doing it as soon as Paul does. I mean, or as late as Paul does on the train ride or
you don't want to be like me, because I'm not a good example.
But just a little bit before, just kind of, doing a little bit of research ahead of time else.
Yeah, if that stresses you out though, if planning is not your thing, because that's some people, like, you love it and you're good at it, but a lot of people don't enjoy it and it stresses them out, then that's where you could use the concierge, or you could actually hire a travel advisor to plan it for you. Ask a friend to help you.
That is available to you.
Another family member. So try to find
or do the group travel.
Yeah,
because they already have an itinerary planned.
Having a little bit of a plan does it will make things go smoother, but if it stresses you out to plan, then that's just, you've lost the battle. But let's see how I do this year with my travel planning. It's really something that I want to be intentional about when I travel, and not just have the travel wear me, right? I want to be the one that's wearing the travel, deciding how I want it to be and how I want it to go. Yeah, well, friends, I hope that you enjoyed our show. And if you have experienced travel burnout, please do comment, share that with us. If you have any tips or things that you've done to avoid travel burnout or to come back and start to enjoy travel again, we definitely want to hear those personally, so that I can start to enjoy travel again. But as always, please like, share, and comment, and we appreciate you watching and supporting our show.
Woohoo! Go travel.